whether an RTS or something will launch on PC first and not come to the Xbox console. Maybe come late. It'll come, but it'll come later. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it really depends on each individual title. So in some cases, like you said, with RTSs as an example, those games are more traditionally thought of as PC games, and it's really important to land them authentically on PC. But then, you know, Gears Tactics is a great example where it launched on PC and then it came to console later. You know, part of that is sometimes there's design work that needs to happen. When you think about like input modalities and keyboard and mouse versus controller, you know, sometimes you kind of have to rework the actual design of the game to make it more accessible on controller. We do support keyboard and mouse on console, but it's also not necessarily like a primary way that a lot of people tend to use their console. So it's like, you know, we want to make sure that when a game releases on console, it feels very authentic and native to that experience. Similarly, when a game launches on PC, we want it to be authentic there. So sometimes it's just a timing. You know, Flight Sim's another good example where we launched Flight Sim originally on PC, then we brought it to console, and then, you know, then when you think about bringing it to cloud, it's really about, you know, how do we make sure whether it's streaming to a PC, a console, or a mobile device, it's still that same great gaming experience. So it's all experience led. And yes, our goal is to provide the best catalog of games wherever you choose to play. And if a game is available across multiple devices, things like cross progression are super important. So that you can, you know, maybe start playing on a console and then pick up and go on your PC and then go back to your console, because it's really about celebrating you and the franchises that you love, and just giving you more opportunities to play.
Yeah, I agree. I think that definitely makes sense on that level. Also, I did want to fall back on the update in reference to development tools, because some things that we do see is, you know, we want, for example, like a game like The Ascent or something like that that came out on PC, you know, we see sometimes there may be some performance issues. So do you feel a lot of that may be a result of UWP and not getting over to Windows 11, and some of this will help alleviate some of the issues some people maybe have with PC Game Pass, as well as, you know, other tools that you might be trying to provide to help improvements for developers so that the PC experience is kind of matching performance-wise what the console experience is getting?
I'd say for every update that we release to gamers, we probably release the same number, if not more, updates to developers. You know, and I think if you look at any console generation or just any, you know, period of time, if you look at the games at the beginning of a generation versus at the end of the generation, they're just night and day different, because developers have gotten better with the tools. We've gotten feedback from developers on how we can make the developer experience better for them. Also, developers learn how to take advantage of some of these next-gen capabilities, or, you know, maybe it'll take them a year or two to get their engine moved over, and now all of a sudden for, you know, the next 3 or 4 iterations of the game, they have a solid foundation both at the platform layer and at the game engine layer, and now it's really about pushing the boundaries as far as they can go. So, like, for me as an example, I probably spend at least half of my time with game developers from all around the world, whether it's our first-party studios or our third-party studios. And just like we were talking about, kind of reflecting on the year of launch, we've done similar conversations with a lot of our development partners of like, hey, how do you feel about the platform? Where are areas that we can improve and kind of push the boundaries? And if you look at the games this holiday, you know, the games this holiday, you look at a game like Forza Horizon 5, or, you know, you guys were talking about Halo. You know, part of that is they've had more time with the hardware. They've had more time with the tools, and we've had the opportunity to respond to that feedback to just make it the best place to develop games. And that ultimately leads to better games for gamers all around the world.
Awesome. Yeah, love the improvement in the space, the continued, you know, dedication to improving there. And again, I'm always excited when I see those PC updates. Because my PC lords, they always hit me up. Get at it.
And the biggest thing that I really enjoy is just how you worded that. Is like, we want to tailor the experience for a PC crowd to the PC crowd, and the console crowd to a console crowd, because I feel like a lot of people feel like they need to be the same, and that's just not realistic. Like They're two different demographics of gamers.
Good point. Good point. So let's move on and get right into this back compat program. FPS
Yes.
boost. You know, you guys made a huge splash this week. 70 plus Xbox 360 games. I think also with auto HDR, resolution bumps, FPS boost of 11 new titles, and then I believe 26 more titles from the existing library. FPS boost also rolled out on the cloud gaming through their Game Pass Ultimate. And I want to read the Xbox Wire statement from program lead, back compatibility program lead Peggy Lowe. She said, while we continue to stay focused on preserving and enhancing the art form of games, we have reached the limit of our ability to bring new games to the catalog from the past due to licensing, legal, and technical constraints. Thank you for being part of this journey with us. So first off, Lord Jason, salute to the entire team. You know, the amazing efforts on game preservation, the enhancements, been absolutely amazing. You know, I've been seeing this program through the infancy days of 2015. I'll be remiss if I don't shout out the late great, he's still alive, Bill Stillwell. As if Bill Stillwell was going, shout out to Bill Stillwell. The Great Wall. You know, when I remember talking to him about the program and just being how amazed of not having the physical hardware inside, right? And then learning about virtualization. And to now, you know, I'm out here playing my beloved 50 Cent Blood in the Sand right now. You know, shout out.
I went and got my disc out.
Yeah, exactly. I spoke it into existence on Defining Duke with my boy Matty Plays.
I don't know what's going on with you, though. like really, Jason, let me tell you, with this guy right now, I don't know what's going on with what he's doing because they calling me the Swami right now. I don't know if
Swami
he
Mini
is actually the enforcer. He has to be the enforcer because he's sliding his little note under somebody's door, and these people. That's why I wanted to have you on because he slide you a note. Because
was the 50 Cent. Let's get the real question out of it. Was 50 Cent Blood in the Sand for me, Jason? Was it for me?
I don't know, man.
I'll put it
That
this
was
way.
just
A
one.
lot of people slide a lot of notes and you see them all.
So look, I felt that one was for me.
I gotta start sliding my notes.
You gotta slide your nose under me. Listen, man.
I was not note sliding.
Look, let's do it together at it.
It's okay, man, because you know I hit up Cog a couple months ago. You know, I was like, you know, you need to put that Fable Anniversary 60 frames patch on there too. You know, you got 2 for 1.
Yeah, that Fable too. Like I'm hoping my hopes and my prayers for my beloved Fable.
No, for real. I mean,
Beloved Fable.
tremendous updates. Obviously, you get the Fable series, Max Payne, Dead Space.
Yes.
You know, I was playing Elder Scrolls Oblivion at 60, and it just hit
crazy.
It hits different. It hits different. So I have to ask the question that a lot of people are asking. This amazing in this program is, you know, many want to know with now back compat, you know, kind of coming to an end for new games being added, right? Will any existing back compat games that haven't received FPS boosts and resolution bumps, will those still continue to get enhancements?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things I'll say here. So first, I mean, the team's been working on that release of new back compat titles for more than a year now.
It was a lot. It was definitely a lot, Jason.
And part of that was we knew the 20th anniversary was going to come, and we basically said, like, what is our ultimate wish list of titles? Like, if we, you know, could wave a magic wand, even though people claim we're wizards, we're not really wizards. We don't have magic wands. No. But I mean, we literally started with a list of hundreds of games that we were like, okay, this is our fantasy list. This is the list of titles. And a lot of that really came from the community. You know, there's great members of the community that would ping me on social media every day, or people would
Every day.
Every day.
He
got the everyday guy. Okay, salute.
And then like people would collate lists and they'd prioritize them for us and whatnot. So we started with a list of hundreds of titles that we wanted to bring to the program. And, you know, to be honest, every title is a challenge, you know, whether it's a technical issue, whether it's a licensing issue. In some cases, the publishers and the developers who made the game don't even exist anymore. So there's like a lot of sleuthing that we have to go do to even find out who we need to get approvals and rights from and whatnot.
Right.
And throughout the entire year, that hundreds of games really kind of winnowed down into the list of games that we have here. So when we talk about, you know, we've kind of reached the limit of our ability to add new titles to the program, trust me, if there's a game that you wanted added to the program, we've tried, and
Okay.
in some cases we've actually tried for years to bring some of these games to the program. And I'll say some of the titles that are actually in this batch, we've actually been working on for years to get the right things. And some of these games, I never thought we'd get the right approvals or we'd be able to kind of overcome some of these hurdles. So us, this was really about a love letter to the community and really kind of respecting all the history that people have. So that's why, you know, obviously it's disappointing that we can't add more titles to the program, but at the same time too, I can honestly say the team has gone above and beyond, and they were able to get titles that I never thought we would be able to add to the program.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. So I got a question for you, Jason. What is that biggest game that you yourself like took personal? Oh, you ain't coming, you coming. Like
what's coming to the program.
You yourself wanted that over it. You know, it was a personal goal to get it to the backwards compatible list for you.
So I can't call out any individual titles, but I will say will say there were certain titles that the team worked extremely hard on for multiple months. And they came through very late in the game because, you know, we knew it would be disappointing if we couldn't get this game or that game out. And, you know, there's one or two that we tried really, really hard and ultimately they fell out at the very end. But there was definitely some that we were able to save and include in this batch. But I can't really talk about specific titles because, like I said, every title is a unique challenge and they have a unique set of things. And that's why it takes so much work to bring some of these games forward.
Good guys.
One specific title that for me, I know probably was hard to bring forward was Advent Rising from the OG Xbox One days. Again, those guys don't exist anymore, right? So to see that game, the thing about Advent Rising was that it was supposed to be this humongous sci-fi epic 3 games, like, you know, written by Orson Scott Card, like
too human.
Yeah, exactly. To see Advent Rising there and to be able to play it, it was something special because I'm like, I never in my life thought I'd see this game again. It's over, it's done. And to see that game and then to put the game on, and the resolution is through the roof, right? Obviously, it doesn't have frame rate boost because it probably would have broken a million different things in that game. But to see the resolution bump and see that game and to still be able to kind of, the strive for epicness in that game, bro, like the scope of this game, you're just looking at it now, and this game is a 15-year-old, 16-year-old game. So like, I don't know how much money I spent this is the 15th, just scrubbing through specifically OG Xbox, right? Because 360, I love those games, but they feel more modern. Like there's certain ones I'm gonna get absolutely, but the OG ones, to see them on there, like I grabbed Dead or Alive 3. That was my launch game, my launch day fighting game.
Facts.
So jumping off to that, Jason, right? Obviously, back compat in this form, you guys have talked about, hey, it's done. We've kind of reached the extent of what we're going to do. Now thinking about cloud and what cloud sort of enables you guys to do. And then recently also, Phil had an interview with Axios where he was talking more about, hey, we need to get on board with this legal emulation if we want to preserve our industry, right? And Phil doesn't say things just to say them. And I know, obviously, I said, back compat in this form is probably mostly done. Is there a future where we could possibly see emulation of these console environments just in the cloud, even if you can apply like the frame rate boost or the resolution boost because it'll break the game, but the possibility to emulate these platforms as they were in the cloud and just allow access to basically the entire library, removing anything that has licensing issues or whatever the case may be. Is that a possibility in the future?
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is like game preservation's in the DNA of Team Xbox, and I think the cloud's an interesting scenario that you bring up because I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and trust me, when somebody was writing an Xbox 360 game or an OG Xbox game, they were definitely not thinking that 15, 20 years in the future, this game's going to be running in a data center being streamed down to a mobile device. Like, and like that's the important thing is like we have this great library and we have this great kind of catalog of games from our past, and it's really about how do we enable more people to play these games. You know, you bring up Advent Rising, you know, like one that I heard a ton of feedback on was Atogi. You know, Atogi 1 and 2, and like so many people have these fond memories of this. And like, did we know we were going to be able to bring that back? No, but you know, we went in and we figured it out, and now to have that actually available. And then I think the other thing too, like Hog mentioned, you know, being able to enable FPS boost on these games running in the cloud. Once again, it's not only do we want these games to be playable, we want them to be playable in more places and better than ever before. So like, there's a lot of opportunity here, and you know, I definitely appreciate Phil's kind of clarion call for the industry, because, you know, back when these games were written on the original Xbox or on the Xbox 360, we didn't have this notion of forward compatibility. And like when we think about like certain contracts or licensing agreements, or even like I've had experiences in my past where like we wanted to go rebuild a game from like 10 years ago. We don't even have the tools to be able to build those games anymore, let alone, you know, enhance them and remaster them and things like that. So I think as an industry, we've definitely learned a lot. We've definitely heard a lot from the community, and a lot of the things that the team has developed and the processes that they've developed are really informing how we build games today, with an eye towards how do these games live 10, 15, 20 years in the future. So there's a lot of opportunity here, and the team's got some really exciting things that they're working on. But like I said, you know, since we started with this wish list of like every game that we ideally would like to bring to the program, there's just some games that unfortunately we haven't found a way to be able to overcome some of these hurdles. But we're trying to take those learnings as we think about the future.
No, we get you on that. I guess the consensus I feel like I got from the community was, you know, obviously we love the work that's been done. Back compat, so many games. We understand the challenges, right? We understand that some things, licensing, even something from a technical standpoint. But I guess the second part people were nervous about was FPS boost. Because like, yo, we like, is FPS boost done? Like, is it no more FPS? So like, can you provide clarity to the FPS boost portion of the program?
Yeah, so right now we have more than 130 titles that we've been able to successfully FPS boost. And we're always looking at new ways that we can enhance titles, whether it's resolution increases, frame rate improvements, things like auto HDR. So I'll say right now, with the existing technique that we have with FPS boost, we've tried plenty more than 130 titles. And in some cases, the vast majority of the game works great, but then we find a game-breaking bug like 80% of the way through. And like when those come up, a lot of times we sit there and the team does everything they can to try to figure out how do we get over that. But in some cases, like, you know, there was one game specifically where there was a critical moment very late in the game where an event would not trigger because we were running at this higher frame rate. And at that point in time, like, we're kind of blocked there. So I think with our existing technique, you know, we've enhanced a whole series of Xbox One games. With this release, we figured out how to FPS boost from some 360 and OG titles. But, you know, we're going to continue to look for new opportunities and new ways that we can enhance titles. But we don't have anything in the immediate future, just because once again, we always treat these titles as a black box. So we try to push the titles further than they can. But we're always looking for new ways to be able at the platform layer to enhance these games. And in some cases, it works on a subset of titles. In other cases, like auto HDR, it works on the vast majority of the portfolio. So something we're continuing to investigate. It's just, you know, right now, I think we're kind of finding where some of the limitations of our current technique is.
Well, maybe one day the greatest 900p game of all time, Rise Son of Rome. You know, maybe one day.
But